Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyersportsbetting.com. Today is July the 26th, 2017. Let's talk NFL football. Let's talk the Dallas Cowboys. My suggested play here is to fade the Dallas Cowboys. I like the under 9.5 wins on the futures market in Vegas. Understand the way the NFL world works. These teams spend what we call the off-season, preparing for next season, right? They look at the personnel of the teams they're going to face, and they come up with game plans, right? Last year, defensive coordinators around the National Football League looked at Tony Romo, didn't think there was a plausible backup on the roster. Understand, Dak Prescott was a later round pick. And they prepared to face Tony Romo, just like a few years ago. Defensive coordinators around the league prepared for Alex Smith, not Colin Kaepernick. Right? Well, Tony gets hurt, in comes Dak Prescott. Defenses weren't prepared for him. Because he was a rookie, they didn't know his strengths and weaknesses. They didn't have tape of him playing regular season NFL games. Well, this year it's different, isn't it? Tony Romo is gone. Dak Prescott is the man. You're kidding yourself if you don't think that defensive coordinators around this league are preparing to face Dak Prescott. Let me also point out, too, that last year the Cowboys had one of the easiest strengths of schedule. This year is different. Folks, the Cowboys open against the New York Giants, who they've not beaten in the Dak Prescott era. Now, let me make a point here. Now is the time to place your bets. The Giants are something like a 5.5 point underdog. 5.5 point underdog against the Cowboys week 1, right? In Cowboy Stadium. You need to take that bet right now. What are you waiting for? Right? Are you waiting for Zeke Elliott to get suspended 1 or 2 games? Understand, that would actually cover this game. Right? Don't wait. If I'm you, I would hop all over that bet right now, and I'd be picking Big Blue. Right? First off, and I'll make the argument here, I think the Giants are a better team than the Cowboys. Second, Giants have the vastly better secondary than the Cowboys, right? All I'm saying is the Giants +5 against the Cowboys week 1. Let me say right now, thank you to the casino. I think gamblers need to hop on that right now. Well, anyway, after the Cowboys open against the Giants, they go on the road against Denver. Now, Denver is tough to play in Denver as it is. Right? But wow, you're going to have a hard time finding a better defense than the Denver Bronco defense. How do you know that the Cowboys on the road are going to hold up against Denver? Right? Didn't Denver manhandle Cam Newton the season before last? Guess what? Many of those guys, including Von Miller, including that brick secondary, is still on Denver. Right? Well, let me say this too. Also, of course, if Ezekiel Elliott, who seems to be a knucklehead, right, has a 2-game suspension, that suspension would cover this Denver game on the road. Now, if starting against the Giants, who Dak's not beaten, and then going to Denver isn't bad enough, they then go to Arizona. Folks, in my opinion, the Cowboys could easily start the season 1-2 or 0-3. Now, the last time I checked, right, Dak Prescott was still a black quarterback in the South. Right? I know he's racially mixed. That makes him a black quarterback in America. This is not Brazil, folks. If things go south, right? If things go south, 1-2 or 0-3 after the first 3 games, I believe that Dak Prescott might find that he doesn't have as many friends in the room as the hype suggests, right? I'm guessing that at least 20% of Cowboy Nation will be demanding the return of Tony Romo. And understand, unlike ex-presidents who disappear, where you don't think about them when they leave office, Tony Romo is gonna be in the public eye. He's gonna be on TV. You're gonna be the Cowboy fan who's reminded that you're 1-2 or 0-3, and that the guy who was the starter until he lost his job to injury is still looking vibrant on TV as part of the sports television crew. Cowboys have other problems. Folks, the secondary just isn't that good. What do I mean by that? I mean safety Byron Jones allowed a league worst 7 touchdowns last year. Right? Let me also point out the division. For the hardcore statistical geeks, you know that Philly was much better than their record last year. Philly has talent all over the page. You know that the Giants added Brandon Marshall. You know that Janoris Jenkins practically owns Des Bryant. You know that Pro Football Focus ranked the Giants secondary as the best in the National Football League in a recent article. Right? You're aware that the Giants had double-digit wins last year. Folks, Cowboys have to play Philly twice. The Cowboys have to play the Giants twice. The Cowboys have to play Kirk Cousins twice. Right? That's in addition to a pretty tough schedule outside of the division. Let's also look at this vaunted Cowboy personnel. Because everyone talks about the offensive line, they don't talk about the defense. Right? Well, let's look at the offense. Jason Witten. Folks, he's no longer the elite tight end that he once was. Pro Football Focus gives him a 72 rating. So if Ezekiel Elliott is suspended for a few games, and you're relying on Jason Witten and Terrence Williams and Cole Beasley to spell Des Bryant, is the offense really that high-powered? Keep in mind, the over-under is 9.5. Also, let's face it, too. The locker room has problems, doesn't it? Right? Ezekiel Elliott, this isn't one bad day. This guy's had a series of bad days. Right? How do you know, and we don't, right? He's a second-year player now. How do you know that his problems aren't going to be ongoing and chronic? Right? The guy's out at a public place. He reaches and grabs the top of the woman next to him and pulls it down and exposes her breasts. Would you do that to a girlfriend? I don't care how well the brother knew his chick. Just ask yourself the question. Would you, who's not a public figure, at least not most of us, right? Would you do that to a girlfriend? Now, if you're a public figure, if you happen to be the starting running back for the Dallas Cowboys, would you do that? Keep in mind, this is while the guy has other things going on, right? Domestic violence, investigation, and things like that. Right? This guy might be someone who is young for his age. So, when I look at the Dallas Cowboys, I see a team that's not going to get to 9.5 wins. My recommendation in this video is to fade the Cowboys, take the under 9.5 wins, and to fade the Cowboys week 1. Let me also say this too. Jason Garrett. You know, he, to me, is not exactly Bill Parcells. Right? He looks like a corporate coach to me. He looks like the kind of guy who, when the Cowboys cut Whitehead, right? This is a guy who is reading prepared statements that he didn't prepare. Right? Now, you could be a very successful corporate coach, but to me, that's not the personality type that's going to be able to handle a locker room that's out of control. Right? Don't believe me? Just Google Dallas Cowboys legal problems. You're going to find more than most teams have. You're going to find guys who have been suspended. You're going to be reading about things like purple drank and stuff like that. Right? That's the state of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, some teams win a Super Bowl, win a World Series. Cub fans are figuring this out. And they get so full of themselves that they're unable to bounce back for the first half of the next season. Right? The Cowboys may have won a 1 seed last year before the playoffs started, and may be so full of themselves that they can't bounce back this year. I'm fading the Dallas Cowboys. I don't believe they get to 9.5 wins. Let me point out too, Vegas already knows not to buy the hype. What's the over-under on the New England Patriots? Isn't it 12.5 wins? Now, for all the Cowboy fans you know, and I know a few, they're talking as if this team has done something. Right? It's as if this team won a playoff game last year. Right? They haven't delivered. I believe the hype is overblown. I believe the team is drunk off of its own limited success. I'm fading the Dallas Cowboys. Let me hear from you. Under 9.5 wins. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.